So the next recipe we're looking at is obviously dessert. And we're actually going to use something that you might not necessarily think of to use in desserts, okay? And that is a plant-based protein. So in this case, we're going to use soy, which has been known to, research has shown to have actually protective effects for cancer, specifically prostate cancers. Lots of studies show there. And so we're going to use soft tofu?
Silken.
Silken tofu today.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's been some controversies you may have heard because for any type of hormone-related cancers, you know, in the past, when scientists have looked at plant-based foods such as soy, they see that the plant-based soy has something known as plant estrogens, okay, which chemically can look similar to the estrogen in the body. However, we know today that they actually don't work the same way, and those plant estrogens can actually have a protective mechanism against your cells. Okay, so having soy in moderation, so this could be things like tofu, edamame, flax seeds, during your day can have that protective effect. So we kind of took a spin on a key lime pie and using this type of ingredient.
Absolutely. Okay, so before I get to the soy, I'm going to make a quick crust on the bottom. You can use this for any sort of pie or dessert. It's pretty easy. So I have about 1.5 cups of cashews. You can sub those with any nut. I have about 1 cup of oats. These are flaked oats. And about 3 tablespoons of ground flaxseed. All really good stuff. Throwing it into, we took out the big guy for this one. And we're gonna add a little cinnamon, just for flavor. It's tasty. Mm-hmm. And we're gonna get that going first. We just wanna break everything down. Plug it in. All right. So just until it gets nice and crumbly like this. And then we're gonna add a fat. So I'm adding coconut oil to this, but it'll work with any vegetable-based oil. So if you want to add grapeseed oil or avocado oil, it'll work really well. Yeah, so this will sort of bind everything together, and then we're going to take that for a spin. Ooh. And what you're looking for is it to sort of clump up like this, and it'll get a little shiny from the oil working its way through. Beautiful. So if you grab this with your hand, it should sort of hold its shape and not be too dry. So the crust is ready. You can throw it right into a pie pan. Again, I go through so much parchment paper, it's unbelievable. But just rinse out a sheet under water and kind of crunch it up. Strain it out a bit, and then once it's sort of wrinkled like that, now I can tuck it in to a baking dish, pan.
Yeah. And just back to the flaxseed, there was a study that showed that men who were on a low-fat diet and had ground flax seeds, about 2 tablespoons in their day. These were specifically men who were waiting for surgery, who had prostate cancer. It was shown that it actually reduced the progression. Okay, so kind of looking at the ways that incorporating the ground flaxseed. Another benefit, just generally, ground flaxseed is also higher in fiber and omega-3s. So those are your fatty acids that are essential. Our body can't make enough, and really important also for heart health, but also lowering the inflammation.
Okay, so I'm just sort of pressing it in with my spatula.
Smells delicious.
Yeah, it smells really good. Yeah, and it's really easy. Instead of fussing around with like a dough
crust,
or anything, yeah, really, really simple. So just kind of make it as even as possible. You hear that baking is a science. I'm not good at science, so I'm making these desserts really, really simple, really foolproof. If you add a little bit more, add a little bit less, don't worry about it. As long as sort of it comes together in your hand, it'll press evenly into the pie crust. You want to bake this for about 20 minutes at 350, okay? Then just take it out and let it cool, and then we're gonna make the filling. So for the filling, I'm gonna start off with some avocado. I am incredibly disappointed with the avocado that I got. Make sure it's nice and ripe, nice and soft. This one is still good, but it's a little hard. It could use a little more time.
Would you use the frozen
You can use frozen.
in this recipe?
Yeah,
or-
absolutely. What you want from the avocado is it's gonna give you a nice fat, so it's gonna actually give you some nice
Creamy.
body, yeah, to the filling itself. Plus, lime juice isn't really green, so the pie would just come out white. So this adds this nice little green tinge to it. Even if it's slightly underripe, we'll still make it work. So I'm gonna pulse this a bit. It'll just be a lot easier if it's ripe. So it's gonna break down to these little pieces, like an underripe avocado would. And then we'll just go with our liquids. So we're going to add about half a cup of lime juice. But before I do that, I'm gonna whisk in some arrowroot powder. Has anyone used arrowroot powder before? Arrowroot starch? It's a great thickening agent. I like it better, much better than cornstarch. It comes from arrowroot. And why I like it is that it doesn't break down in acidic environments or ingredients. So it works really, really well if I'm using like a lime juice or lemon juice. So we'll just whisk it in. We call that a slurry, not a slurpee. And we're gonna add,
So this is fresh lime
this is fresh lime juice. You can use the bottled stuff too, not a problem, but I squeeze them. All right, and with that liquid, it's just gonna, even if it's underripe, it'll help to blend everything a little bit easier. Now we want to sweeten that up, so we're gonna add just a little bit of honey. You can use a little bit, depending on your taste. We're making a big pie here, so. Okay. All right, and then once that's nice and puree, we're gonna add a little bit of vanilla and our silken tofu. So that's our silken tofu. Drain off, in the package usually comes in a little bit of water. Make sure you drain off any of that water. You can see how soft it is. Now for those who maybe are not really into tofu, or maybe just think they're not into tofu, this, you can't even tell. It's, especially the silken tofu, once it's pureed through, it just becomes sort of this really nice creamy custardy texture. Doesn't have much of a flavor to it.
Yeah. The other thing is it's high in protein. Okay, so you know, most desserts don't necessarily have that much protein. Usually you think of dessert that's something very high in sugar or sweet. And the protein actually helps your blood sugar be at a kind of maintain its level. So it's not gonna spike and then drop because of the protein and actually the fat that's in, and the fiber actually that's in this dessert.
All right, so turn it on and just let it come together. If you have to scrape down the sides a couple times, you can stop it to do that. It'll look a little gnarly at the beginning, but once everything comes together, it's really nice. So maybe I'll just do it once. I'm really upset about that avocado. Hoping for a nice one. The ones I made in advance are good. So kind of puree it just until it becomes nice and creamy. If there's still like bits in there that don't break down, you can always pass it through like a sieve just to make it really, really super creamy. But you're essentially looking like I would go maybe a little bit more, but
Paste, like
can you
more.
kind of see? Yeah, a little bit more of that creaminess on there. And then that's it. Pour it into your baked shell and then into the fridge. You do not have to cook it again. The only thing you have to cook is the shell. And you let it refrigerate for minimum 2 hours. You can definitely do it ahead of time. And once it comes out, so I did it in a spring pan. It doesn't have to be in a spring pan. Oh, you know what? The camera's chasing me here. Sorry, guys. All right. And there we go.
Wow.
So, because of the silken tofu, the avocado, and then that arrowroot powder, it'll kind of come together.
Form.
Yeah, into a solid piece. And let's see. Yeah, all right. All right, you know what? I'm gonna leave it like that. I'm just gonna cut into it on the pan, but you can take it off the pan.
Nice.
Cut a nice slice. And it'll have that really nice sort of soft custardy consistency that you would expect. And there we go. Yeah.